Thors, a man once known as the legendary Troll of Yom, a member of the merciless Jomsvikings who was feared and admired by countless other warriors. One day, mysteriously he vanishes after a battle and is assumed to be dead, when in reality, he has actually taken up refuge in a small village in Iceland and begins to lead a peaceful life with his wife and 2 children, the youngest of which is a boy named Thorfinn, who had a simple, wonderful childhood life at the time, enthralled with tales of a far-off land named Vinland that may or may not exist somewhere out there beyond the sea, a land of green pastures, blue skies, and free from the rulings of modern kings and invaders. But one day, Thors is discovered to be living here and is visited by his once comrades, the Jomsvikings. No one in the village is used to seeing the sheer power and presence that these men carry with them, stone-cold eyes from those who have traveled far and killed many. They force Thors to come out of retirement, needing him for an assignment. As word gets out and the rumors of Thors begin to circulate once more, Thorfinn marvels at what a man his father is known to be, and excited to follow in his footsteps and become a true warrior just like him. Thorfinn practices fighting, hurting the other children, and feeling a sense of fulfillment as he does so. And when he stumbles upon his father's weapons, specifically a sharp dagger that no doubt at one time was stained with the blood of many men, the allure and sense of danger and adrenaline captivate the young child's eyes and mind. His lack of understanding of the true brutal reality of life, death, and violence is on display. As Thors rips the dagger away from him, he kneels, eye to eye with his child, not here to scold, but to share with him honestly, to save him from a life in which he would have deep regrets and haunting thoughts. "You have no enemies," Thors says to him. "There is nobody you need to hurt." Vinland Saga is a manga created by Makoto Yukimura, which is loosely based on the real-life story of Thorfinn Karlsefni, an Icelandic man who made his way to the Americas to begin settlement in the then-called Vinland. But the manga is more than just a play-by-play of real historic events and touches on much deeper themes of the realities of man and the nuance of good, evil, peace, and war. I will be the first one to tell you that I am not a history buff, and what draws me to this story has nothing to do with world history. It's the writing and the characters and how well executed this story has become over the years. Every time I think about it, or read it, or watch it, I love it more and more. It's climbing higher and higher on my top 10 manga list, and where we are right now, as of the making of this video, the manga is currently on its final arc, and if I had to guess, that final arc is probably about a third of the way through, and Season 2 of the anime is in production right now, and recently confirmed that they are already within the voice recording process, so expect a trailer in the very near future. So right now is one of the best times to get into the series, one that will pull you in and captivate with complex characters that each in their own way view life differently and try to navigate a hostile and near hopeless world, some wishing to die in the glory of combat, and some leading others with the faith that a world of freedom exists somewhere out there. When asked in an interview about the creation of Vinland Saga, Yukimura once said that he desired to write a story about the theme of violence. Something inside him was calling to talk about it in a way that is not traditionally done in manga. He said, "In the hero manga of my beloved Japan, no matter what the story is, the protagonist is the strongest in the sense that they are the best at doing violence. Meanwhile, the characters who are not adept at violence are perceived as weak. So the story unfolds with the hero repeatedly beating up the bad guys, and no matter what happens, it is difficult for the hero to escape his destiny. But what would happen if the hero of the manga truly wished he could escape from violence? Could you still tell the story without it losing its entertainment value? I decided that I wanted to try that out." What separated Vinland Saga from many other seinen and just manga in general is that even though there is an incredible amount of action and fight scenes, Yukimura never shies away from showing the horror of real violence. True violence in the world is not what we imagine in movies and anime. It's dark, it's painful, it destroys lives, and it's ultimately terrifying. To add fuel to the challenge of trying to create a story that tries to struggle away from violence, Yukimura also chose to set his story within one of the most chaotic and violent times in human history, a time where raiding mercenaries and Vikings could swarm into a village, kill all the men, take all the women, and use anyone else as slaves. A time where it was not only just the way to survive, but also incentivized and encouraged to want to die in combat. Using the backdrops of Vikings and Norse gods and mythology, and having many characters fully locked into the divine belief that if they die while fighting, they will go to Valhalla and be rewarded for doing so. Imagine the conviction of a man that is fully convinced that dying in combat will be a good thing, and the sheer focus he would have during his fights. In fact, you don't really have to imagine. Look at real-world events still to this day, and we can see how beliefs in higher powers and rewards after death can influence and corrupt people into doing horrible things. No better character exemplifies this than Thorkell, a gigantic beast of a man who lives for war and nothing else. Getting by on his sheer massive strength and battle prowess, any man would be terrified to have Thorkell opposing them. He is truly the definition of a warmonger, and instead of having what you would think would be a hardened attitude, he absolutely loves the thrill of a fight like a joyous boy on Christmas, even continuing to have a sense of honor in the sense that he wouldn't kill an unarmed man. However, he will just hand you an axe and tell you to at least try as he cuts you down. But the themes of the story are told through the life of the main character, Thorfinn, beginning the story as the young naive boy, the son of Thors, and growing into the eventual explorer that the story is based on. But in between those two pieces of his life is a long list of tragedy and redemption. I will try to keep this video as spoiler-free as I can, as you can use this video as more of a selling point to get somebody into the series if you're questioning whether or not you should. But I will inevitably have to spoil some of it in order to give you the gist of what to expect. So if you don't want to know anything at all and you're already sold, go and check out the manga or anime, and I swear you won't regret it. But if you'd like to hear a little bit more, well, let's continue, and I'll try to keep the spoilers as basic as I can and not give away too much. Thorfinn as a character is a man that has been pulled into the darkest depths of both what his world of war has to offer and also the deep psychological trauma that living through these experiences have given him. But it's also how Thorfinn continues to press forward that is the inspirational crux of the entire story. The first arc of the series is what you could consider the most action-heavy, as it takes place during this War of Succession for the throne in England and the mercenary band that's caught in the middle, led by the proud and hardened Askeladd, who is about as beautifully nuanced as a character can get, a man that exemplifies every solid quality in a leader that you would want to have during these times, someone that can push his crew and get the best out of them while also allowing them to enjoy the spoils of their victories fully. Askeladd has his own backstory that is tragic as well, and a great deal of the first arc has you understanding and sympathizing with his objectives, but also never fails to remind you that Askeladd doesn't mind viciously murdering an innocent village of people to salvage their food and resources for his own men. He is also the one responsible for the untimely death of Thors, done right in front of Thorfinn's young childhood eyes. The frustration and confusion within Thorfinn, as one of the last moments of his father's life, is Thors tossing his sword overboard and claiming that a true warrior needs no sword. These perplexing and haunting words stuck with Thorfinn, but without solidifying their meaning. Instead, the young child stows away in Askeladd's crew, vowing for revenge against Thor's death. And it's within this crew that Thorfinn's childhood is lost forever, spending the next decade training how to kill and trying to up his skill level to eventually challenge Askeladd on equal ground to avenge his father. But funny enough, Vinland Saga is not a revenge story, though that is the running idea behind the first arc, and for those of you that have only seen season 1 of the anime, You might think that that's all this series is, but far from it. The final words of Thor's resonate throughout the entire manga. What does it mean to be a true warrior? Simply to live through battle and conquest? The strength and capability for violence is not enough. It's only the beginning. Just the building blocks for a larger idea that Thorfinn will, for some time, be too blinded to understand. And besides war being a dominant factor, we also have the authenticity of slavery, viewing fellow human beings as property and lesser than. Thorfinn's story would eventually find himself at the mercy of this grim reality, broken and empty and ready to die at any moment. But something powerful happens here, something that perhaps only a man that has been shattered completely can understand. That sometimes being empty is the best place to be because it allows you to fill yourself up again with something new, a new purpose and a new realization that creating, growing, making things may be so much more difficult than destruction, but also so much more rewarding. Vinland Saga is the only story I know that made me more invested in the growing of wheat than when the next battle would happen. But it's the symbolism behind it. A farm is a perfect example of how hard it is to grow food, something that helps prolong life and makes life better, makes people truly happy. Working to build and create not just for yourself, but for the generations to come. For Thorfinn, a man with a kill count of hundreds, a lost childhood, a ruined vengeance, and dreams of the dead constantly threatening to tear him back down, vows to use what is left of his life to create a world where he can eliminate the horrors that he experienced. War, slavery, vengeance, to find a way to leave these things behind. Move beyond them, and that is the battle he must now face. It's not that a true warrior is not capable of violence. A true warrior is very capable, but with that, the battle does not end with the physical fight. The battle is how to navigate the world that thrives on and encourages that violence and remain honorable and live by your vows and convictions. And to do this in a place where some men will happily beat a child to near death with a stick and do it with a smile on their face. Thorfinn is barely rewarded for his good intentions. Sins of the past have a way of coming back to haunt you when you least expect them to. One of the best characters to personify that is Hild. Hild is a girl who had a gift for inventing and creating tools to help cultivate things, until one day her father is killed for no good reason, just another mission by a young boy named Thorfinn. And as he states, she is the hunted, and he is the hunter, and it's that simple. Hild learns the unforgiving lesson of kill or be killed. She's then trained by an old woodsman who gives her the knowledge and skills of survival within the harsh terrain that's around her. His untimely death symbolized by being killed by a bear. The bear had no vindictive reasons for killing him. It's the wild, and wild animals are just doing what they do. Unlike the human world, there are no ulterior motives, and to her, a man like Thorfinn is distinctly inhuman, a wild beast that must be put down for his own good, even crafting her own specific weapon, which is a reloadable crossbow. As bowstrings take a good amount of strength to pull back and time to reload the bolt, Hild uses her craftsmanship skills to create a lever that takes the time and work out of that process, and be able to strike faster and deadlier than would be expected. An example of the time, work, and effort that was used to make a weapon of killing, rather than putting that effort into an invention that could help people. Forgiveness is a tricky subject. Many series have been about atonement, redemption, and it's a powerful theme. But Vinland Saga approaches this idea from yet again a realistic standpoint, that you can't just start doing good deeds and hope that someday they will outweigh the bad ones. The bad things you do in life will always continue to exist and create a ripple effect throughout your entire lifetime. You will be the villain in somebody else's story, and there's nothing you can do about that. Redemption is not up to us to decide if we get it, when we get it, or how we get it. Redemption is in the hearts and minds of every single person you've ever hurt. You want to move forward past the things that gave you trauma and what that trauma made you inflict on others as you were too weak to deal with it at the time. You want to be a kinder, gentler person. You want to be a stronger person. and you will be tested again and again and again. How bad do you really want this? The universe will ask you while throwing a stone in your path or a spear right in your gut. How bad do you want this? As people you care about begin to suffer because of what you caused, how bad do you want this? As you have to use the lessons given to you by a man that you hated the most in order to beat your current situation, how bad do you want this? As you refuse to let yourself die before you can accomplish what you desire to do in life, a desire that does not only benefit you, but the lives of everybody that you care about and beyond. Thorfinn will face this pressure, and he may never get the redemption that he craves, but through pain, the struggle, the conflict, and the passion for life that he somehow miraculously finds amidst every reason to give it all up, he will slowly discover what it means to be a true warrior. There isn't anything fantastical or supernatural in the story of Vinland Saga. The horrific elements come from humanity itself, and good and evil don't really apply, as each character is fleshed out with enough nuanced perspectives, and they change and grow as they go through their various journeys. There are many characters I did not even touch on, both big and small, that play into the themes of the story, but for me, Thorfinn is the character that I most identify with and that I truly want in my heart to succeed. Though, if you do know the actual history of the Norse and Vinland, well, let's just say that he's not out of the woods yet when it comes to tragedy. And whether or not you agree with the current ideals of Thorfinn, watching him continue and progress in life holding on to them is inspiring, and I'm forever going to be emotionally attached to this character and this entire story. And I hope that when and if you do check out this manga, that you will too. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.